everyone, and welcome once again to the vast and ominous comic book vault. It's time for new acquisitions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan. How you doing, man?
Good, how you doing?
I'm all right. It's time for some new comics. I've got lots of stuff this week. I had a bigger week than you did, so I will be rambling on and on at the end and making Dan very bored. But before that happens, we're going to talk about 4 books that we had together this week, and let me also, as always, mention Elite Comics out here in Kansas City, Kansas. In Overland Park, Kansas, but in the Kansas City area, and thanking them as always for all their help and support with the show. We're going to start right off with some Marvel, Dan. We're going to begin with The Superior Foes of Spider-Man #1, which I mistakenly thought was just a one-shot, and then I got to the end and it said, and it looked like there was going to be more, and I was like, how long is this? This is a monthly? And this seems like a very strange thing to make a monthly out of. I gotta tell you, Dan, Marvel continues, and I know we said this a few times, Marvel continues to impress me with not just the different risks that they'll take. Like Avengers Arena, that was a risk, you know? That's not a book that you would have expected, and especially Hawkeye, you know, that was a risk. This is another one of those where this is not a concept they would have even attempted 2 years ago. This is mostly characters that most people don't know jack about or anything about. They're kind of C-stringers that come together to become the new Sinister Six, but there's really only 5 of them, and they still kind of call themselves that. Dan, what did you think of this book?
I thought this was fantastic. I really liked this book. It's about these supervillains that... It's sort of the Peter Parker story, but an evil version of it, where you have these people that don't know how to fit into this sort of villain society in this world where it's pre-established. And you have all these A-listers like Chameleon and Doc Ock, and they're really good at it, but they don't know how to do that, and they're trying to figure out and find their place in that world. And the reason they can't is because of the choices they make, and they're just not very intelligent people, which is contrary to Peter Parker. And it shows here that, like, the little choices they make are the things that make them unsuccessful, like when they forget to check if the door is locked before they go into some place, and things like that. They treat it with a really tongue-in-cheek kind of way, which I really liked, because we've seen, you know, the serious take on the supervillain thing with Thunderbolts when Norman Osborn was running the team. So I liked that this was a little bit more lighthearted and fun. I thought the humor was really effective too. I liked a lot about this.
This struck me, at least at the gate, as a sitcom. I mean, this is not an action-driven comic book by any stretch of the imagination. And I wonder if there's not going to be more action as it goes along. I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see these guys actually go up against some superheroes, and I imagine that they will. What I had to keep reminding myself of while I was reading this was that these were supposed to be villains. Not that I don't mean that as a criticism. You don't feel like you're reading about bad guys. You feel like you're reading about people who are trying, as you said, to live in this supervillain world. What they seem to be doing is like, okay, we picked this job and we're trying to learn how to. It's like seeing a really bad sous chef try to work in a kitchen. You know, it's kind of like that. Like you know, they're dressed for success, but they don't really know what they're doing. They especially Boomerang. You know, he's constantly like trying to fight his own lack of imagination and lack of intelligence, and I appreciated that. This is not really for me, I don't think. I might give it another shot. I think it's really competently written and it's funny for the most part, but I also think that it's not exactly my kind of humor. Like, it felt a little bit like there's a lot of the kind of college, almost like, or awkward, almost college-y kind of humor in this that's just not my bag. But I can totally tell that a lot of people will really, really like this, so that's not a slight against the book. I just mean that I don't know that I would want to read this regularly, but I think that for what it's doing, it's, you know, it's good. It's doing that well. Shocker, I didn't realize was this much of a bumbling idiot, and that makes me sad because I've always said I like Shocker.
One thing I have to say about this negatively was that Shocker's written really out of character in this.
Oh, okay. See, I thought he was out of character too.
Granted, Shocker doesn't really have a character, consistent in any way, but as we've seen him previously, I think the last time we saw him, he was like really into trying to preserve his reputation as a legitimate mercenary and businessman, and now he's just sort of really apprehensive about everything and doesn't know how to socialize with people and is pining for the beetle in one of the panels too. So it was sort of strange in that way, but at the same time, I think the point of this book is going to be showing how incompetent these people are at first, and then getting them to a place where they're actually really good at their jobs. So
I would imagine
I think that
so.
would be the arc of the book. So I'm sort of, okay with that. If they give Shocker something interesting to do, at least.
I thought maybe it had been so long since I'd read Shocker in comic books, because most of what I know from Shocker is just the animated 90s cartoon, and I really liked him there.
Yeah.
And because he was actually in that quite a bit. And so reading him here, I kept thinking, well, maybe that's just been his characterization lately, and I just don't know because I haven't seen him in so long. But there are a lot of these places where he's got like sad Shocker face, and that's funny. But I wondered if it wasn't kind of a little bit out of character. It's also really funny. Is it the Beetle, the girl in this? Is that her name?
Yes, the new Beetle.
It cracks me up that every time she appears, there's guys standing around her talking about how hot she is, and you can't even tell what she looks like because she's just wearing a skin tight costume. I thought that was really funny. It's like the Beetle's really hot. I'm like, well, maybe if she took her mask off, she's not. You don't know. I just thought that was really funny. I don't know. A lot of this worked for me. Lukewarm recommendation for me, but obviously Dan liked it a lot more than I did.
I liked it a lot because of the parallels I had said this, about with the Spider-Man story before, and like how also the way that they end up in their lives is the way they treat people, based on the way they treat people too. Like Beetle's always like texting and not paying attention to people on her phone and stuff instead of actually conversing with people, and that's why she's not able to be successful at her job and stuff. So I don't know. I really liked that part of it. I hope it retains the humor without that being the main focus of the book and devolving into slot Spider-Man fare, you know what I mean, where it's just all jokes and the dramatic stuff falls flat. But I think Spencer, from what I've seen with this issue, he looks like he's got a little bit more of a handle on how to balance those things.
I would just want this to not turn into a sitcom where the fight with these guys sit in a coffee shop and make jokes every issue.
Right,
I'd like to see some actual plotting happen. Well, let's go ahead and move on, shall we, to Daredevil Dark Knights #2, a book that I gave another lukewarm recommendation to. I read the second issue and suddenly fell in love with it. I think this is really quite good. Go ahead, Dan. What do you think?
Again, the parallels are what really struck me about this. The whole thing with this little girl's father and the parallels that they're making here between him and Jack Murdock, and the reason that all of these bad things happened to his daughter is because he wouldn't make time for her, and that's the thing that Jack Murdock did for his son, is made sure above all else that his son was raised right and he spent time with him, and that's what made Matt Murdock the great person that he is today. And the reason this girl is dying now is because the dad didn't want to leave town for work, and he has to make all of these terrible choices to make up for the bad choices he'd made before, and it's really interesting stuff.
What I really like with what's going on with Daredevil's character too is that this seems to be a story about time management and about how you can't be in multiple places at once, and how impossible being a superhero really would be. How impossible just being a good person sometimes feels to be, because Daredevil. And I feel like there's a parallel going on there too with those characters, where while that guy, like you just said, while that guy's daughter is kind of paying for him not using his time the way he ought to and prioritizing, Daredevil through this entire story is having to figure out how to prioritize, And I thought the last one of the last scenes in this issue. By the way, this felt like a lot of reading for 22 pages. I was kind of surprised by just how much got done in this issue, which is one of the reasons I loved it so much. And you get toward the end, and Daredevil throughout this has been putting his nose to the grindstone and running past several terrible problems that he could solve, but he doesn't have time to solve, and he's owning the fact that he can't can't do everything, and if he stops to, save somebody from a mugger or whatever the random crime happens to be, he's going to risk this girl's life even more so. And so he has to prioritize, he has to pick something. But then at the end, and I won't give away what it is, but there finally is a crime that he hears, and that's the problem, is that he's got this superpower. If you couldn't hear everything, it wouldn't be as big of a deal, because you wouldn't know these things were going on. But he's aware of them. This was covered in the Daredevil movie, too. That was something they handled with the roof. And of course, it's done in, he makes a different choice depending on which version of it you watch. And with this, he finally hears something that is bad enough that he says some things you can't ignore, and it's us seeing that Daredevil learned from his father's mistake, and he's learned how to prioritize his time. But then at the same time, it's sad all the things that he's got to kind of leave. I just thought it was wonderful how personal this was, and that they even make a big deal of, Daredevil has saved the city from these huge, terrible, problems with like huge crime syndicates and things like that. But this is not like that. This is a very intimate, small thing, and the stakes feel just as high as they would if he was going up against some huge crime syndicate. I was very impressed.
Right, exactly. And on top of that, you have a threat against the city that he can't combat or fight in any sort of way. It's just Mother Nature, right? It's just the snowstorm that's an unrelenting force of nature that he's not going to be able to stop. And I loved that you were talking a little bit about the crime vignette, little things we'd gotten at the beginning of the issue, and I loved that one that we opened with here, with one of Matt Murdock's former clients, and it's very thematically connected to the crux of what was going on in the first issue, where it was all about how Matt Murdock is the underdog and the guy that just won't give up, just like his dad. And the reason that guy has the problems that he has at the beginning of the issue is because Matt Murdock gave him a chance to redeem himself, and he fell down and he didn't get back up again. He went back into drugs, he went back into gambling, and Matt's like, I wish I could help you, but there's more important things at stake here.
And Matt just let something bad happen to that guy, and if he doesn't, this little girl might not get her heart transplant. And so, we as the audience can understand those difficult choices he has to make. I was thrilled with this, and also the art is really beautiful. And
I love Lee Weeks' art here. He's a guy that I had known a little bit of from Daredevil stuff I've taken a look at the 90s, but I didn't realize just how good he was. This is great stuff.
This has a wonderful atmosphere and a really great sense of setting, which comic books are sometimes lacking in. I talk a lot about even a lot of modern comics on these weekly shows, where I'll be a little confused as to where exactly we are, because there'll be blank backgrounds and the setting isn't used to its fullest. And this isn't about just a person walking around noodling these things and having to make these tough choices, but like in a white void in a box or something. This you actually get to feel the presence of the snow on top of him, and you see, like you said, exactly what the big challenges are. This isn't about there's no supervillain in this. I love that.
No, there isn't, and I think Lee Weeks does a great job of inhabiting the Miller Daredevil world, in that it's really dark, it's really gritty, and it doesn't look like there's any hope to be had. But Matt Murdock is the guy that makes you think that there might be a little sliver left, and there's some levity too. Where there's a scene where Daredevil walks in on that crime he said he couldn't ignore, and he just kind of falls over from being so cold.
That's right.
And it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it sets up a really interesting cliffhanger for the next issue. So you're he's playing with your expectations. You're sort of laughing and concerned for him at the same time.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even see that as being played for comedy. I thought it was a really sad, but also kind of like endearing moment for Matt Murdock. And also kind of. You wonder. I guess the reason I didn't see a lot of levity in it is I was kind of wondering if it wasn't going to kind of bite him that he didn't let that one go. He did go against that time management that we were talking about earlier, but that's a case where he had to. You wouldn't want him to leave that one.
Right, exactly, and
just those tough choices you'd have to. I mean, this could be renamed to Daredevil. Why you wouldn't want to ever have to be a superhero, you know?
Right, yeah. I'm just loving that we're getting Daredevil stories that are so different from each other, but still so good.
Absolutely, yeah.
Marvel's doing a knock-up job with Daredevil right now.
I wish it was selling better. I mean, I wish Daredevil, by and large, was selling better, but I appreciate that we're getting as many stories as we are right now, and that it's not just the Wade stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Because it's nice to sort of go back to the Miller stuff a little bit. With this 8-issue mini, it's nice to play in that, because I really like the Miller stuff.
Let's move on to What If AVX #1. Dan, I've been collecting What If since I've been collecting comics, so anytime something comes out with the What If headliner, I have to buy it up no matter what it is, because I collect it. And this was not great, but it was okay. I'm wondering, this is going to be a 4-issue miniseries, and I like what the big cliffhanger is at the end, but because I have read AVX, I could have read the last 3 pages of this and not read the rest of it and got exactly as much enjoyment out of it, because the first several pages of this are mostly the exact same setup for actual AVX. I kept flipping pages, wondering when things were going to change. And because the thing is, this is one of those things where, now, to be fair, What If has always been done this way. What If has always been something that they try to make it to where you can read it even if you haven't read the other stuff before, and so they give you all that setup, but not always to this extent, and I did feel like I got half the issue or more of, well, nothing's different yet. When do things change? Also, I didn't like that the Watcher doesn't open this because we don't like.
That's something I missed. I agree.
We know we're in a different reality, but only because we know what If is. If you don't, I mean, obviously, anybody reading this is probably going to assume it's an alternate reality. But I kind of missed that. I didn't know exactly what universe we were in. So I thought that was weird. And also because so much of this is exactly the same setup, the dialogue is kind of subpar to what the dialogue from AVX was. So it's not as good, and it's also all stuff where I've been there before, but it's not done quite as it's not as good. The writing's not as good. I don't know. Do you agree or do you disagree, Dan?
I kind of disagree almost wholeheartedly. I really enjoyed this just because of the stuff that they did with Magneto's character and what they were saying about Scott Summers' character.
Sure.
With all that stuff. When you think about Hope and the path that she took in AVX, and I wasn't really even thinking about this when I was reading it, I was sort of thinking of it because of this. We have Magneto training Hope here, and I believe that the initial changing event here happens at page 1 because the Guardians weren't involved at all in AVX before, and I think them being the ones to contact the Avengers changed things a little bit.
Oh, okay. And I didn't pick up on that, yeah.
Yeah, because Nova crashed into the Earth, and that's what had them know that the Phoenix was coming before, and now we have Nova with the Secret Avengers out in space, and he wasn't there before. So they're probably going to do something with that, and then we have Magneto training Hope, and we have Hope here sort of sympathizing with Magneto's philosophy a little bit, and it shows you that Scott Summers wasn't exactly as much of Magneto as people are making him out to be, because when you think about it, Hope took the right path in the end. And she was raised partly by a guy, Cable, who's Scott Summers' son, a guy raised by Scott Summers and Scott Summers himself. Scott Summers has to have some sort of merit in him as a human being and as a person if he's able to succeed where Magneto failed here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
That was one of the things I was thinking about that I thought was really interesting about this as a setup issue. I agree with you that it could go either way. I'm not completely sold on, buying this maybe as a 4-issue series and be engaged through the whole thing, but that was the one little thing that I latched onto. I found that to be interesting.
Well, clearly because AVX was
saying that it was a good read for me.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun. I guess part of it again was that I didn't feel like the dialogue was quite up to par with what it was in AVX. I just I didn't feel like he had voices for all these characters necessarily. It wasn't all bad. I don't mean that. It's just some of it was a little bit awkward for me. But I'm critical of dialogue. But you get to
and that's fair enough. But
yeah,
I think at the same time he might be suffering a little bit from having to cover a lot of ground in a little amount of space.
That's precisely true.
That's something that I thought of a little bit, because Jimmy Palmiotti is usually a great writer. I've read some of his stuff, and he's really good.
I'm not familiar.
But I agree with you here. This wasn't necessarily my favorite thing that he's done. I agree with you.
AVX is so long that I also felt like some of this isn't a problem, but I feel like one of the major choices that's made here for what one of the big different inciting incidents that gets the ball rolling on this was kind of, I think, not forced, but I think chosen so that they could skip over the first 3 or 4 issues of AVX, because the big thing that changes is everybody knows right away what Wolverine's plan is. That's the big difference, is that Wolverine is able to keep that in the back of his head in AVX, and so it's not until the 3rd or 4th issue, if I'm remembering right, that anybody, when Captain America throws him out of that airplane, it isn't until anybody.
So they changed quite a few things.
They did.
You picked up on some things that I didn't, and I picked up on some
but
things.
I guess what I'm saying is I didn't feel like things were different enough until about halfway through. Again, it's not a big deal. I just kept wondering why I was reading as much philosophical dialogue from these characters as I was, because I've read AVX, so I already know where they all fall on everything. So I found that a bit tedious. It's not a big deal. I expect that. I guess I'm just saying that it hampered my enjoyment of this a little bit. I don't know what they would have done different. Whatever. I don't mean to belabor it. It's not that big of a problem. This is one of those things that these kinds of miniseries, they just never read as well separately. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to really critique this until I've read all 4 of them. You know what I mean? Maybe I needed all this setup, and I don't know yet. I did enjoy that the Guardians are there from the beginning because of the fact that we've been reading them for a while now. So it is cool that we get them right there, and I hope they do some stuff with them. That was cool.
I agree. I was a little off-put by the voices that he had for these characters, just because they weren't as strong as Bendis's, and that's my only exposure to those characters, so I'm used to them being a specific way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so you've got the same main complaint that I did.
Yeah. With that scene specifically was where I was a little off-put.
Fair enough. But anyway, I'll keep reading that, obviously, because I love What If, and
hopefully those little changes we were talking about, that it wasn't that different, spiral out of control and become a lot different by the end of the series.
Well, they already have with the last panel, certainly.
Yes,
so that's pretty great. I hope I'm not giving away too much when I say this. I do like that Wolverine is kind of the catalyst in this, that really starts the war. And I also like that What If AVX isn't, what if Avengers vs. X-Men wasn't actually them fighting at all. I'm glad they didn't go there,
A&X friends.
A&X friends. Okay, let's go ahead and go on now to our last Together book. Our Together books, Dan. Our last book that we both read, Venom, number 37. Dan, I'm going to let you start rolling on this. I'm going to say one thing real quick, and this kind of sums up everything for me about this particular issue. I think this is maybe one of, if not Bunn's best scripts, but I don't like the art.
Yeah, I liked this just because I like the occasional breather issue. This is how I like my comics to be told, as we had talked before. This feels a lot like an 80s Spider-Man comic to me, where we're just telling an ongoing story and not necessarily having to do specific arcs. We're building towards something larger, and I like that. And this is sort of the in-between issue where we're moving from the Venoms, or the stuff with Toxin. I call it Brock Venom by reflex. So we have the Toxin stuff, and now we're transitioning into, as we can see by the cliffhanger, one of the major villains from Renders of Blood is coming back. And I liked that we're sort of dealing with the fact that Venom was a little sloppy with his secret identity in the previous arc, and people are starting to catch on. And this is like completely atypical to the problems I had with Superior Spider-Man. We're actually treating people like human beings and dealing with those sort of real-world issues and problems that these characters would have if they were as sloppy as they are with their secret identities. Yeah. So I really like that about it, and I'm with you, man. The art was real rough for me, to be honest.
I don't know who Kim Jacinto is. Are you familiar?
I am not familiar. But I get what they were sort of going for, because it was sketchy and it was rough and it was gritty looking, and that's what people might want from a Venom book. Not me necessarily, but
yeah.
I could see sort of what they're going for.
And this book has always had that sensibility, but not to this much. I mean, it's not abstract, but it's so rough around the edges that it's just like, it's so jagged, I think is the best way to put it. And it almost... I will say that it did begin to grow on me a little bit. Like, I liked it better as it went along, and I do like, you know, we won't give away the big cliffhanger, but the way he draws the returning villain at the end, I think is, he or she, I'm not sure who this is, the way this artist draws that villain at the end, I think is maybe the reason they got put on this, because that looked great.
It did look great, and I think... I'm with you, the art did get a little better for me as it went along, and I think it was because he was drawing action and the Flash in the Venom costume for most of the latter half of the issue, whereas we had him doing a dialogue scene at the beginning, and I don't think his faces are all that expressive other than being angry and jagged, and because that's just what his style is, you know? I just don't think he's suited to necessarily dialogue scenes, and that's unfortunate because that's what a lot of the things I like about this book is.
But the action was interesting. The color scheme was really interesting.
Yeah, and I think he draws a great Venom monster symbiote sort of thing.
Yeah,
I enjoyed all of that stuff. It looked pretty dynamic.
This relationship with Flash and this woman that works for this newspaper is really quite good. It's
really interesting because you don't know what side she's on, and she's totally atypical to Betty Brant. It's a nice contrast to her. This is like his Mary Jane to his Gwen. You know what I mean?
And I feel like when she finally finds out that he's Venom, she's not even going to be slightly surprised. She might know already.
It seems like she already knows.
Seems like she kind of does, yeah. I don't know. I'm really enjoying that dynamic and how, like, because clearly he's mad at her because she sideswiped him at school and all of that, but then at the same time he's clearly attracted to her, and that's an uncertain potential romance that's working for me. I'm liking that. I think that's not the kind of thing that I would from what I'm used to with Cullen Bunn's writing, because I've read a lot of Bunn now. That's not the sort of thing that I would expect that he would be great at. He's great at that. I'm impressed.
Yeah, and it's very consistent with Flash's character, too. Like, the reason that him and Betty's relationship soured was a lack of communication and a lack of trust, and that's what Flash is sort of resisting here, is, like, he's not sure about what her intentions are and all that stuff, and what side she falls on, and he tries to talk to her about it and doesn't really get any answers out of her initially, you know? It's a communication thing, so I like all of that. Like we had said before, I think his voice for this character is pretty much spot on now. It's really good.
I'm also enjoying it is. I also really enjoyed the kind of like two mercenary teams kind of battling it out, trying to get to Venom, and each of them is trying to kill Venom, and the offshoots of different Spider-Man characters. I thought that was really cool.
That was very cool, and there was, like, Lord Deathstrike or whatever. I was like, I didn't even know that character existed. Where'd Lady Deathstrike go?
I know. Well, and I also wondered if some of these weren't totally made up, because there were a couple of really goofy names, which I loved.
Yeah, I had a feeling that the Avengers stand-in characters were new creations for this book.
Yeah, but that was cool. Like, the Hawkeye guy was funny, and the Spider-Man guy was really funny.
Yeah, he was.
I thought Venom had this great line where he's like, I'm not Spider-Man, and Venom's like, yeah, I've fought Spider-Man, and you're right, you're not Spider-Man. I was just like, that's good, that's good stuff. One of them, Death Shield, what a stupid name, and then Jagged Bow. I don't know. I enjoyed that. There was another one that was even worse.
Versions of the Avengers. It's kind of like Cullen Bunn poking fun of that, and it's very fitting because it's in a Venom book.
And Cullen Bunn's trademark. That was the word I was looking for. His trademark is kind of like B and C list characters. He likes to bring back people that we haven't had in a long time, kind of like Morrison, and that's one of his favorite things to do. And so now it's like he's trying to create some of those. I like that. That's good for Bunn.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what, because he had a little bit of experience writing this character when he had co-written a little bit with Remender previously during that run where they had co-written together. And since he loves the C-list and B-list characters so much, I'm very excited to see how he's going to handle writing that character by himself, because I'm just really excited to see that character come back. I never thought I would be. So,
and that's the idea that this book was kind of founded on, was taking some of those characters that had never been majorly important before and do things with them. I don't know. That seems to be one of Marvel's big MOs right now. Is bring old characters into the mainstream, old minor characters in the main, to the point where they aren't really minor at all anymore. And I mean, we're doing that with Guardians. We're doing that everywhere.
Oh yeah, I think the main difference between Marvel and DC right now as companies is Marvel is very loving and accepting of its legacy, and DC's afraid of it.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
That's just the way I see it. But
yeah, not to like pick fight or anything, but yeah, I agree. No, I agree with you.
Not DC's, I like a lot of DC's characters. I just feel like that's the attitude of the two companies right now, where DC's sort of overcompensating, trying to make all of their characters really, grounded and all those sorts of things. Where Marvel's just like, nah, I mean, we're going to put Batroc the Leaper in a movie, and it's going to be awesome.
Let's go on now to solo books. Like I said earlier, I've got lots of these this week, and Dan doesn't have as many, so I'm going to do 2, and then Dan's going to do 1, and I'll knock these out as quickly as, Captain Logan-y possible. Here is Avengers A.I. #1. This is by Humphreys. What is Humphreys' first name?
Sam, I believe.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with the artist on this either, but his name's hard to pronounce.
I flipped through it in the store, and it looked pretty cool.
It's good. It's good. Yeah, I'm very happy with the art in this. It's pretty straightforward. It looks like some other books right now. I'm trying to think. It's a little bit like. I don't want to say Daredevil. What is this most like right now? I don't know. It's familiar. I'm trying to think of what it looks the most like right now. I don't know. Anyway, I was not prepared to talk about the art in this, I guess. Anyway, Avengers A.I. #1. This is kind of jumping straight off of the extra issue at the end of Age of Ultron, where Hank Pym is suddenly the star of what really felt like it should have been his book the whole time. Yeah. And he comes in here, and he's bringing together a new Avengers team that he's kind of heading up in order to stop yet another evil AI that he seems to have had some kind of a hand in, maybe that's threatening the world. So it's sort of like how maybe he would have handled Age of Ultron if he'd known it was coming. It's kind of
him just should never touch a computer ever again.
He just needs to stay away from computers. Yeah. So I don't know. I questioned that a little bit, where I was like, isn't this kind of the same problem from Age of Ultron to a degree? But I guess it's not exactly. The thing is, I'm not familiar. I'm trying to remember the name of this. I'm not familiar with this other AI that he's about to deal with, or exactly where it came from. But it does seem like Hank Pym had something to do with it, especially because he's refusing to tell S.H.I.E.L.D. anything about his dealings with this. So he brings Vision in, who has been out meditating around the sun. He's like next to the sun, and he's just like meditating, and then awesome. and then Hank Pym's like, "Come back, we need you," and then he pulls all these other people together. Vision has a brother who I didn't know about, who looks human. What's that?
I didn't know about that either.
Yeah, who looks human but has kind of a robot voice, and keeps through this whole thing trying to come up with his own superhero alias, because he's never had one before, but he can't think of anything good, so he keeps coming up with things like Devil Slayer, and everybody's like, no, you can't call yourself that. That's stupid. And then one of the members of this team is a Doombot, who's just called Doombot, and he's awesome. And he's my favorite character so far. Like, they took just a random Doombot and made him a character in this, and that's my favorite thing about it, because he's so condescending and like self-important, and thinks he's better than everybody, and seems to sort of think he's Doctor Doom, like he knows what he is, but he talks like Doctor Doom, and he talks like everybody else are ants and peons around him. Well, what happens is, apparently Hank Pym just had him as a prisoner in his laboratory, and he needed more help, so he decided to reluctantly use him on this team. And I don't know exactly how he's controlling him and keeping him from running off off and wreaking havoc. I'm not real sure how he's doing that, but he seems to sort of have him under his thumb, except that he hates all of these people, the Doombot does, and so he just, through the whole thing, he just keeps saying all these mean, derogatory things to everyone, and he keeps asking permission to do horrible things, which is my favorite part, because there's one part where they take out all these shield drones that this evil AI has commandeered and is like flying around the city and crashing into things and killing people. There's a lot of great action in this, and so they take down these things, and then they save a baby, and the Doombot is like if you'd like, I will crush this screaming, mewling child for you. And Hank Pym says, remember, Doombot, all life is important, but he doesn't understand that.
Well, leave it to Marvel to find a really interesting and not contrived way to put Doctor Doom on an Avengers team. That's awesome.
Kind of the way they did it. Yeah, it's cool. So the idea, I'm just talking about how fun this is in the action. So the idea that I really latched onto in this first issue, I guess I liked it quite a bit. The idea I really latched onto is there's a part in here where Hank Pym or somebody, I forget. No, I think it's Vision. It's one of the actual artificial intelligences. Says that we have to come together and stop this because we are some of the only people in the world that have a vested interest in solving the problem of a war between human beings and artificial intelligence without causing genocide to either side. And if you really think about it, that's interesting, because if this happened in real life, humanity would not probably consider the artificial intelligence to be a life form. We would think of it as just a computer that we created and we can destroy. Well, the computer sees itself, I mean, we've seen this countless times, Terminator, The Matrix, the list goes on and on, where the artificial intelligence sees itself as above us, as
one of us, like the Vision does.
Yeah, but I mean, like an evil artificial intelligence that's going to war with us, kind of sees us as like ants, as smaller than it, and so it can crush us without any, even if it has some kind of morality, without breaking its own morality, because it thinks that it has achieved something greater than us. And so this is a team of people, besides the Doombot, that actually care about both sides getting out of this with as few casualties as possible, and seeing both sides as actually real people. I think that's really interesting. So it's kind of taking that old science fiction concept and making a team book out of it, which is something I have not seen before. So I recommend this. I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, that does sound really interesting. I'd like to pick that up if there weren't so many other good Marvel books going on right now.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there's so much going on. Speaking of, let's go on now real quick to Deadpool Kills Deadpool. More Cullen Bunn, and this is the end of the Deadpool Killogy. So we had Deadpool Kills, and I'm not making that up, that's what they're calling it. So we had Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, then we had Deadpool Killustrated. And so it starts off with Deadpool killing all of the different Marvel universes, basically, and then he realizes that that his work is not done, because then he has to destroy everything that people came up with that led to that. So he's got to kill all of the kind of progenitors of those archetypes. And that's what was so much fun about that second one. If you don't know anything about it, Deadpool Kills Deadpool is this really bizarre notion that I don't know if it's a paradox or what exactly it is. It's jumping the shark a little bit, but I'm still enjoying it. It's this idea that when it's all said and done, Deadpool still has not managed to destroy the Ideaverse and destroy... This is all about Deadpool trying to kill himself. He still can't kill himself. And the idea now seems to be that Deadpool is actually kind of like the beginning of everything. Somehow, I don't know if it's because, and I don't want to intellectualize this too much. What's that?
That's kind of hilarious.
I don't know if it's because he's the only self-aware character that he knows he's a fictional creation inside of this fictional world. I don't know if that's the reason it is, but we have this Deadpool in a creepy black jumpsuit that's going around all the different Marvel universes and trying to destroy every version of Deadpool. Now, what I'm also confused about is where this happens exactly. Does he go back in time? in time, what does he do? Because I thought that all the Marvel universes were destroyed already. I'm a little bit lost, but at the beginning of this, or toward the beginning of this anyway, he actually goes to the real, to the original 616 universe. So this ends up having some canonical stuff in it finally, because he goes to 616, and it's not just all different dimensions. So it's creepy black-suited Deadpool trying to kill every version of Deadpool, and we get to see the Deadpool corpse, who are really funny, and like there's a dog, and there's a female Deadpool, and I've seen some of these characters before and other things, but there's...
And they have a book, too.
They had a book, that's what I was going to say, yeah. But then there are also some other ones that end up being on this team. They've enlarged it, and then this evil black-suited Deadpool shows up, and he's really funny, too, because his suit has been put together like it looks like it's got those like sewing things, like you can see seams in it, like the Catwoman suit from Batman Returns. Like that's what it looks like, and so that's really funny. But yeah, it's gruesome and it's crazy and it's over the top violence, and it's a lot more like Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe than it is like Deadpool Illustrated. But it also, because there's so many Deadpools in it, it reads more like a Deadpool book. You do have to deal with a lot more of that obnoxious, silly comedy and the breaking the fourth wall stuff and all that sort of stuff, which I'm more okay with in the context of this because of what this book has been since the beginning, or because of what this story has been since the beginning. And so, I don't usually care for Deadpool humor, but I'm getting used to it in the context of a premise that I like a lot. This was fun. The art in this was just brilliant. That was my favorite thing. Oh, and we also get to see zombie Deadpool's head get put in a microwave and explode. So that's kind of fun. And they call him Headpool. just
That's awesome. Great. Has it been the same artist on all 3 books?
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't think it has.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. This might actually be a couple of artists. Espin, who I'm not sure who that is.
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with their work or not.
Salva Espin is drawing all of this, which is interesting because the opening pages don't look the same as the rest of it. So he's obviously also quite versatile. Okay, so that's it for my first 2 books. Go ahead, Dan.
All right. I actually tried out a new book this week from Marvel Now because we got a new creative team on it. And I had reviewed the first issue of this series and really didn't like it at all. And there's a new and up-and-coming writer named Charles Soule, who I had heard great things about when he had taken over Swamp Thing after Scott Snyder. People had been saying it was better than the stuff Snyder was doing. So I was like, man, I gotta check out some of this guy's stuff. Maybe he's got some chops. And this is Thunderbolts number 12. And this is by Soule and Steve Dillon, and I really, really enjoyed this. This was great stuff. This is sort of a character study for the Punisher, but it's also a sort of examination of his relationship with Elektra, because they have a relationship in this book now. They're sort of dating, kind of, as close to someone as Frank Castle and Elektra can get to each other.
That's fascinating, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really fascinating. So this issue is all about the Punisher trying to hunt down Elektra's brother, who was a mobster, that the Thunderbolts had been trying to take down in the previous 11 issues, and Elektra had lied to everybody in the team and said that she had killed him, but she couldn't bring herself to do it and left him alive. So Frank Castle figures this out, and he's like, well, I gotta go kill this guy, and Elektra's just as bad as him, so eventually I'm gonna have to kill him too. Kill her too. So It's really interesting seeing Frank Castle get close to someone again, and it's sort of he starts to have that Matt Murdock thing in Miller's run when he has that relationship with Elektra where he's like, I really like her, but she's contrary to everything about my philosophy, and if I go with her, I'm going to have to sacrifice everything that I know and to be with her. And Frank Castle's sort of reconciling whether or not he wants to do that. There's these great thoughts that the Punisher has where he's saying, oh, Elektra, she's an assassin, but most of the time she kills people for the right reasons. And it's sort of like the Punisher rationalizing within his own weird, philosophy, Elektra, justifying her profession because she's a paid assassin. That's criminal. Punisher kills criminals.
And he doesn't kill for money.
Right, exactly. So you would think Elektra would be someone on his list, but no, because he's finally getting close to another woman again after he lost his entire family, and he's been on this really dark war in trying to reconcile his family from the mob and all that kind of thing. The Punisher origin. So that's all really interesting, and it's really interesting for Elektra too, because the Punisher is like. He has a lot of the same qualities as Matt Murdock, and Miller plays with this in one of the issues, specifically in his run, where there's sort of two sides of the same coin, where they're both very driven men, but for completely different reasons. Matt Murdock is driven to do the things he does because he has everything to lose. If he stops trying to make the system work, everything that he worked his entire life for collapses, and doesn't mean anything. Yeah. There's no such thing as order or law if Daredevil stops doing what he does. The Punisher doesn't have anything to lose, and that's why he does what he does. And that relationship between the two of them, it's really, really interesting. So I'm really invested in that stuff because I love Elektra. Flash Thompson's in this book, too. He wasn't in this issue, but if this writer's going to get his hands on Flash, I am in for the ride, too.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I am definitely going to check out the next issue of this book, and hopefully I'll be able to stomach Deadpool. Hopefully he's not too intrusive, but... yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with this. I really, really liked it.
I'm interested in that. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I wish it had a code. It's only $3.
Yeah,
I would have sent it to you.
Oh, I might look for that next week at the shop though. That sounds really.
It's worth checking out. Yeah, and Steve Dillon's art is pretty good in it too. Better than the first issue of Thunderbolts I read.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Green Arrow, number 22, and this issue is kind of getting more and more of the standard Green Arrow, Rogues Gallery, and other supporting characters in this book, and doing different interesting things with them. Oliver is continuing to go after Komodo, who's been the villain since this arc began, and is part of the key to this whole weird totem thing and all of that. And I gotta tell you, I'm a little bit lost with all of that, just because this is involved enough that reading it month to month is obnoxious. I want to go back and read this from 17 forward and get it all in my head again, because I do feel like I'm a little floundery on this book right now. But this was a wonderfully enjoyable issue, and one I really liked about it is all of these new arrows that Green Arrow has now that he has kind of a supporting group behind him. It's sort of hard to understand where they're getting the money to build these arrows, given that I forget the name of this kid that's working with him, but he's got a guy and a girl that used to work for him when he had his company, but he's lost his company now, and so everybody's kind of out of work. This guy is like a delivery driver, and he's the only one of the three of them that has a job right now. And so there's one scene where he's complaining because Oliver asks him to pay a taxi fare, and he's like, why do I always have, or I think it was a taxi fare or something like that. He's like, why do I always have to pay for things like this? He's like, and Oliver's like, because you're the only person with a job. And then I'm like, so how did you build an arrow that maps out a whole sector of an area? Like, that's amazing technology, but I don't know where you got the funds for. I'm wondering about stuff like that. But anyway, so some of the arrows are really fun, and yeah, it's fun to get back into Shrink arrows and stuff like that. I'm totally cool with that.
Green Arrow staple.
Yeah, and so he, in trying to find Komodo, he's looking for the other dragons. Komodo is a dragon, and there were other ones, and he has a lead where he thinks he knows where Shadow is, being one of the major Green Arrow characters. We've got her in Arrow right now on the island. She also is in Green Arrow Year One and stuff like that. And he finds her, and she has this incredibly interesting revelation, and just totally sideswipe me, just a what kind of moment, revelation of something to do with her and Oliver's father. When she first meets Oliver, she recognizes his father in his face and thinks it's him briefly, and then she says, "Oh wait, you must be his son." And then at the end, we find out why exactly she is wearing the exact same outfit as the girl who has been calling herself Komodo's daughter and been running with Komodo. but who we've been told is not really his daughter, but it's been a mystery as to who exactly she is. It's revealed at the end of this what two people she is the product of, and it's a brilliant kind of revelation. I was just, like, again, mind blown. And anyway, I'm way more invested in this now because it's not just going back to the island stuff, but it's reinventing it for New 52 in a really interesting way, and really engaging way, and I'm just loving it. Better than the art is or better than the story is the art. Andrea Sorrentino still just killing it in this book. The panel layouts are always impressing me. The inconsistent coloring from panel to panel is impressing me. I think that kind of thing is really fun. Then I know I've talked about this before, but this one, more than all the others, has a bunch of those panels where it'll be a square that zooms in on something and shows you another piece of it, and I think that's a really interesting device and a cool thing that you can do in a comic book that you can't do in other kinds of mediums. So we're really taking advantage of the comic book medium, and we get to see Count Vertigo now in 52, and his first encounter with Oliver, and his costume is just totally out there. And cool looking, but he looks really interesting. And he's got this whole, like, swirly Vertigo thing going on, tattooed on him. And
that's cool. Yeah. Very fitting for the artistic style of that book, design-wise, I would think. Yeah, it's a bit more of a gritty thing.
Absolutely, yeah. So this, more than just doing any, like, really specific, analyzable thematic stuff, is mostly just revealing some interesting mythology stuff about Green Arrow, and I loved this. So check that out if you've not been reading this book. It's still really, really good.
I'm gonna have to check that out at some point. Every time you talk about it, I'm like, man, I should be reading that.
You'll love it.
That's one of the DC books I really would like to check out that I'm not reading already.
Next up, Batman Incorporated, number 12. We're getting closer and closer to the end of Grant Morrison's long, seemingly never-ending and convoluted run.
Does it make sense yet?
I say convoluted mostly because 52 interrupted it and did strange things to it.
Yeah, that's where I sort of lost pace with it, too. I was enjoying it quite a bit up until that.
So at the end of issue 10, 11 was a fill-in issue that I didn't really like very much. The end of issue 10 saw Batman taking his last big crazy step toward finally figuring out a way to defeat Talia and Leviathan, and he takes the Man-Bat serum and turns himself into a giant bat. And we get to see Bruce Wayne say "Scree," which is just fantastic, right? And so it's literally Bruce Wayne through half this book, or maybe a little more than that. Or is he still a giant bat by the end of this? I'm forgetting now. It seems like it's maybe wearing off, where he's got this crazy, like animalistic kind of face toward the end, where he's not quite a bat anymore, but he still just looks like
So they just have regular Batman on the cover to sell the book, huh?
This made me I guess so, which is weird because I would have put the Man-Bat Batman on the cover, yeah. But I don't know, man. This made me want a fighting game crossover between Batman and Primal Rage. But anyway, so this is the big showdown finally between the Bat family, Batman Incorporated, and Leviathan. And of course, Leviathan is sort of a big evil organization battling Batman Incorporated. It's like, good organization, evil organization fighting each other. Right. But we're also now calling the big guy who is a clone that Talia made that killed Damian Wayne. We're not calling him Leviathan also, so that's kind of interesting. So he's like the face. So he's like the face of it now, and he's starting to well, he's not coming to terms with this at all, but he's starting to realize that Talia doesn't care about him at all, and she has this whole laboratory where she could just build another one of those if she wanted to, and he is completely devoted to her and sees him as her son and sees him as the rightful heir to the Batman legacy, because of course Batman and Talia, in Talia's mind and in the mind of the League of Assassins, is supposed to be with her and her beloved, and they should have had an heir. and that Damian kind of was that, and so he killed Damian partly because he wants to be the heir of to the League of Assassins, and also to Batman. So he calls himself Batman. He thinks he's Batman, and that this is kind of the well, I don't want to give away how this ends, but it's really the big giant showdown between them. Talia does something really crazy, scary at the end, and then there's a big breach of the Batcave at the end. I guess I'm giving that away, but that's a big reason to read this, just see how that happens. Holy crap! And I'm saying that because I'm not giving too much away, because a couple of issues ago we thought there was a big breach of the Batcave. Well, he actually paid that off, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, so the stakes for Batman could never be higher than they are toward the end of Batman Incorporated here, and I just hope that we get to see a really great, some maybe even lengthy confrontation finally between Batman and Talia at the end of this, and I like how this book has kind of made her in a way kind of his worst nightmare and biggest adversary, and I think that's working really well, because even when kind of the Nolan Batman idea with Batman Begins, this notion that Batman and the League of Assassins should be able to work together and should be the same thing because they want the same things, but they also don't want the same things at all. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, no, it was quite good.
Quite good. Large the last issue will be, because it sounds like he's going to have a lot of things to do plot-wise in one issue left.
Yeah. Well, is it just one more issue?
I thought so.
I thought so
I think
too.
That's an ultimate one.
I thought so too. Yeah. Wow. It's going to be interesting to see how big that is. You're right. Maybe it'll be as big as Leviathan Strikes was. It'll be like 50
that'd be awesome
pages or whatever. Yeah.
Because I did read that, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. I'd like to go back and get the New 52 Batman Inc. in full, because I've read everything up until then. I'd like it to make some sort of sense, especially that black thing at the end of Return of Bruce Wayne. What was that?
Your guess is as good as mine. Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
My last book I have is Green Hornets #3 by Mark Waid and Daniel Indro, and covers by Marcos Martin of Daredevil fame, and I love his covers.
Oh yeah,
cool. It's great. And this continues to be a really great book. I'm really enjoying this. This plays with your expectations in the best sort of ways possible. Wade has this thing where we had been introduced to this character in the previous issue that was sort of a voice for the Communist Party, and he was sort of lobbying Britt Reed's newspaper, and he Britt Reed's father had thties to this man, and he had used the newspaper to sort of champion the cause of the workers, and the Daily Sentinel was responsible for, in this universe, in the 40s and previous, getting worker rights and stuff in America and that sort of thing, because that was a big problem at the time, the working conditions in meat factories and stuff like that. It's mentioned in here. So there's a lot of talk about how Britt Reed should be using his power. Should he be just sensationalizing these stories about this Green Hornet supervillain? Because the guy doesn't realize what he's doing. He's like, you're just sensationalizing all these crime stories. Why aren't you actually trying to send a message and do something to the people? And he doesn't realize, he's going out as a Green Hornet at night, and that's why the newspaper is sort of a front for all that. So Wade sets this thing up where he drops a few lines of dialogue that were very similar to the villain that we introduced before, and at the beginning of the first issue, and you don't know who it is. It's a whole mystery, and you think that it's a flip on the Green Hornet dynamic, where it's a good guy or a bad guy masquerading as a good guy instead of the Green Hornet thing, which is, him being a good guy masquerading as a bad person. And it doesn't go that way at all. And it ends in a really, really dark place, and Britt Reed made a choice with that character that is going to have really harsh implications on not just him, but all of the people around him. And it's a fantastic reveal at the end. This is shaping up to be, I think, 3 issues in, just as enjoyable as anything else I'm reading from Wade right now. This is great, great stuff. And if you were kind of skeptical because it's Dynamite and it's Green Hornet, a character that a lot of people I don't think are all that familiar with, I'd give it a chance because it's a great introduction to the character and his world, and if you like period pieces, it's different from some of Wade's other work. It touches on a lot more social issues than like his Daredevil stuff, which is kind of a fun action swashbuckling romp. It's a little bit heavier here, so if you like that sort of stuff, I'd recommend it. It's good.
Last thing I've got, Dan, is Spawn number 233, and look, we've got the Curse on the cover. The Curse is back. I think it's weird that McFarlane has been making such a big deal out of trying to make this more of a like low-key horror book and get away from the superhero stuff, but he keeps bringing back all of these characters also, and a lot of supervillains, and characters that look a lot better with their initial designs in kind of a classic flashy comic book art than they do in this more like muted, creepy, shadowy kind of art where you can't see all the detail, you know. And so it's a strange choice.
That cover looks great.
It's a strange choice, and yet I think that Krasinski's doing a pretty good job with it. This is the best looking issue Krasinski's done for probably 15, 20 issues. I felt lately like he's been phoning it in a little bit. This one was really pretty. This one looked great. And admittedly, he had a little bit more to draw here, but a lot of it is flashbacky stuff. I mean, and he does some cool stuff with colors, and you know, some pages are really bright, and so it like hurts your eyes after you've been reading really, really dark pages for a while, and that's always kind of a cool feeling.
Yeah.
You know, I say McFarlane gives him a little bit more to draw. Like I say, a lot of that is more flashback kind of stuff. This is still just a big, really long 22-page conversation, like a lot of these tend to be, where it still feels like McFarlane just kind of trying to get out the mythology on the page. And a big question that I often have with McFarlane is, why was it this long before you had to give me certain information? This is 33 issues after the big the major, you know, issue 200 thing where we kind of changed the format, and a lot of the things that the big revelations we finally get in this issue are things I feel like we could have had 20 issues ago. The big one, well, you know, nobody's reading this book, so I'm sure nobody will mind if I mention this. You know, I've been looking at the numbers for this lately, and like just the sheer number of weird things that are outselling this book, kind of sad. So anyway, if you don't want to hear any spoilers about this book, skip ahead to the end to book of the week or whatever. But I'm gonna go ahead and mention a couple things because
I'm all ears. I can't wait to hear the shenanigans.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I'm warning you now. We don't usually spoil on the show. I'm gonna spoil a couple things on this book. I don't know what else to talk about. So I'm just saying I don't know what else to talk about with this.
Fair enough, man. That's awesome.
We get this big revelation. And I won't go into how I don't think this makes any sense, but we get this big revelation here that the Spawn symbiote was not made in hell, but was actually made in heaven.
Huh.
That's the big revelation, which is interesting given the old prophecy that I don't think we're even really dealing with anymore, but the old big prophecy that Spawn was going to be a big player for one side or the other, and he could go the evil way or he could go the good way. The idea that heaven built him is kind of an interesting idea, but I wonder, but what doesn't work is that there are other symbiotes besides his, and apparently his was built like 1 million years ago, and I don't really understand all that. So, like, were the rest of them built by hell after that, based on that design? I don't get it. Especially because the design has, according to an older issue of Spawn, has, you know, what's supposed to be an M on it that stands for Malbolgia. I don't get it. I don't know how that works, but...
Yeah. Doesn't that sort of defeat the allure of Spawn, too? Wasn't the whole thing supposed to be, like, a good guy that's using the power of evil to do good? And now it's just a good guy using the power of good to do good?
And the power of good that is not really all that good, because it can also be evil. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Well, the idea now is that the symbiote is trying to force... Jim Downing to do its bidding. That's been kind of a thing for a while, and we now get this in-game where the symbiote wants to be ruler and master of everything, and the symbiote is trying to become God. The symbiote wants to be God. Kill God, take over the universe, be God. Alright, that's kind of interesting.
I read Morgan Freeman, the Spawn book.
That's awesome. But the thing that infuriates me the most about all of that is that then you get to the end of this issue, and he said, and the Spawn symbiote, well, I guess it's a she. Letha is a female symbiote. The Spawn costume basically says, well, Jim Downing, I've told you all of this finally, but when you wake up, you're not going to remember any of it. And so I say, well, why did we wait this long to make that revelation to the audience then? And as always, isn't it more interesting to have your protagonist stumble upon things or learn them through in a natural way and through their own ingenuity, as opposed to just McFarlane has decided that issue 233 on his chart of when things are going to be revealed is going to be the issue where this is going to be revealed. This is classic McFarlane in that way. That's annoying. Having said that, his dialogue and everything, I've said this before, has improved tenfold over the years. This is more readable than a lot of his older stuff. I will give it that. It's just, it's not storytelling. It's like, just, like, people will say word vomit. This is idea vomit. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So now you're just going to have to deal with all these issues of the main character asking questions of himself and the world around him that we already know the answers to. That's not interesting.
I guess. Yeah. And again, if you were going to do it that way, why couldn't I have known that this whole time? Like, why are we wasting so much panel time? Well, anyway, like I said, this is vintage McFarlane. This is how he writes. McFarlane, dude, you've given stuff, you've given your work to other people before and outlined it and then said, you write it, because I'm not really a writer so much as an idea guy.
He's an idea guy.
Do it again. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like, the guy he had writing for the first few issues of this new run starting at the beginning of 200 was a really good writer, and he did I don't remember his name, but he worked well with Kurdansky, and he did a really good job with kind of structuring all of that. And now, tons of issues that could be condensed down. You know what I mean? Like everything we've seen in the last 20, 25 issues shouldn't have taken more than 10. Or less.
Man, that's unfortunate, because we had been talking about how McFarlane's such an idea guy. Like, Spawn as a concept is such a cool thing, you know? And it's so unfortunate to see his great ideas squandered like that, you know?
Yeah, I hate that. Anyway, I hate to be a broken record and to be a broken record on multiple shows. But anyway, I'm still buying that book, so I guess I'm still reviewing it. Anyway.
Right.
Well, let's go ahead and do Book of the Week, Dan. It's your turn to go first. Go ahead.
Oh,
your favorite book for this week. Wow, I don't even know what mine is yet.
I think I'm actually going to have to go with the book that I bought on a whim this week, Thunderbolts number 12. I was actually really impressed with this.
Sounded excellent.
Just a fascinating study of Frank Castle and his relationship with Elektra. And those are not necessarily a Punisher, but Elektra specifically as a character I really like. So I latched onto this quite a bit. I really enjoyed it.
I think the book that surprised me the most this week and had me the most enthralled and taken in by its world was Daredevil Dark Knights, which I cannot believe I'm picking, because I was lukewarm on the first issue. But wow, this just had me really engaged. So yeah, I know we picked Daredevil a lot, and this is another Daredevil book, but yeah, that's my pick of the week this week.
And one of the things that I think we didn't really mention, we were talking about that book a little bit, is even with the second issue here, this is one of the most accessible comic books I've read in a very long time. It just sort of drops you in this world and introduces you to this character very well. If you've never read any Daredevil before, pick up those two issues. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I would say, I hate to say this, but I would say even over going back and starting with Wade's book at number 1, this is probably a more accessible first-time Daredevil story.
I'd say so, too, because a lot of what Wade sets up, especially in the latter, like the more recent issues of that big story he'd been telling, it references stuff from Shadowland and things like that.
You're going to appreciate it so much more if you're aware of all of that.
Right, exactly.
Well, Dan, thanks as always for being with me. Had a good time.
Thanks for having me, as always. It was a great time.
And we'll be with you again next week for more brand new comic book reviews. I want to thank one more time Elite Comics out here in the Kansas City area. If you're ever out here and you want to see a really cool comic shop, go to Elite Comics. They help us out with the show, and we always really appreciate it. If you ever want to send anything to the Vault to be reviewed, you can always send that to our P.O. Box. That's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
And we'll see you next time. Happy reading.